have our school board opening meeting. We have 4 of our school board members here this morning. Thank you for being here. I'm going to have them open the meeting formally, and then we'll get started with the proceedings. Thank you for being here. 1 second, please. And by the way, I'm Dr. John Rubio. I'm the superintendent of the school district. If I haven't met you, I'm very happy to see you, and thank you again for being here. 1 second, please.
Good morning. This meeting of the Emery Unified School District. The school board is now open. We scheduled this and noticed this as a special meeting of the school board so that under the Brown Act, all board members could be present and to hear your feedback and be here for the day. This day is really not about us, it's about showing folks the facility here on the ground and hearing your feedback on and your thoughts on this. Ms. Tamery, can we have a roll call, please?
Member Collins-Rogers. Member Merriam. Here. Member Pats. Present. President Afton.
All right, the next item is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, Superintendent?
Good morning, no changes, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second? A roll call, please.
Member Collins-Rogers. Member Merriam. Yes. Member Pats. Yes. President Afton.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. Agenda is approved, and we're ready to start our day.
Well, good morning, and welcome everyone to your community forum, and thank you for showing up on a rainy Saturday. My name is Tracy Tomasky, and I'll be your facilitator today. I'll be keeping the meeting flowing, making sure that your the time frame is working for all of for the day. We're scheduled to be here till 2 o'clock, and the purpose, you have actually 4 purposes for the time together. One, I'll be sharing a brief history of how you got to where you are today with this facility. And another purpose is to hear concerns, the concerns that were expressed previously and how they've been addressed. You'll get to have a tour of this grand facility, and at the end, there will be time for you to break up into smaller groups to share your thinking. And then that thinking will be shared with the board at a follow-up board meeting. So briefly, the history. I got to speak with your superintendent, I spoke with your current board president, and I spoke with the former board president, Josh, who was here 15 years ago when this process began. And he shared that at that time the school was bankrupt and there was a recall election. And there was a joint committee of stakeholders, the stakeholders being representatives from the school district, and the community. And the stakeholders recommended to connect the schools to the community. And that's where the process to create the ECCL began. That was about 15 years ago. There were dozens of community meetings, and the stakeholder group actually selected the architect and the contractor. And then Measure J passed, and your Citizens Oversight Committee, your Financial Oversight Committee was established. They've been meeting regularly since then. And so it's been a collaborative process through all of these meetings and your input, the input of the stakeholders, and working with the architect. From your suggestions, there have been changes made. For example, the design of the bathrooms, the design of the gardens, and the entire building design based on feedback from stakeholders. So for many years now, the plan has been to have all students begin at this ECCL facility, currently slated for the fall of 2016. And so today's input will be shared with the board as it finalizes its plans to open the ECCL and as it considers how to utilize Anna Yates campus next year, including whether to retain some grades at Anna Yates.
Here, here.
So today there will be an opportunity for you to hear from different presenters. You'll also have an opportunity opportunity to have your voice be heard. So I ask that there's two considerations when we have our conversations together today. One, that we have only one person speaking at a time, and two, that our conversations be respectful, that you're focusing on the issues and not the personalities. Because what's most important is that everyone gets an opportunity to listen to what's being presented and that your voice gets to be heard. So with that, John, yeah, thank you.
Okay, and good morning again. And just to let you know, if you have any children with you, they can stay with you, but we have about 15 kids playing right now in the back room, and they're playing games, they're playing Battleship, they're watching Good Dinosaur, and they're coloring, and they're doing stickers. So if you have children, you're welcome to let them go in the back or check it out, or you're welcome to. And there's adult supervision, they're not just by themselves. Thank you for reminding. All right, so I'm going to get us started before we go on our tour with some preliminary information, because I know one of the reasons some parents are here today is also to get additional information or more information about the site and the facility. So I'm going to walk us through some slides here. And so let me start with this one, kind of sort of the overall lay of the site facility. So, and I apologize, this projector isn't quite as bright as I would like. We are, of course, right here now in the gym. We have next to us over here this very large soccer, baseball, football field with a partial running track and lane for a running track around. We have over here the 3-story K-8 building. We have a large multi-purpose room. We have the high school building, administration, and the city community center. And so I want to just give you sort of the layout before we go on our tour today. Some important things to note. This line here denotes the original wall that is now, I think it used to be years ago, it's motorized. So this wall will oftentimes be closed, sometimes it'll be open, when the boys basketball team plays tonight at 6 p.m., in case you're interested in coming. In the playoffs, it'll be, of course, fully open. But this wall is motorized. Often this room will be cut in half whenever we need it. Similarly, this multi-purpose room, which is about 3 or 4 times larger than what we have in Andy Yates, also has a large wall that divides the room. So we'll show that when we go on the tour. A couple other things I'll share with you while I'm on this slide. If you were to add up the parking, the 27 spaces here, the 24 spaces here, the 45 spaces across the street, the 19 spaces there, and I can't read that number, I believe it's 18. I believe we have marked about 121? 131. Okay. Well over 100 parking spaces. And currently, I think at Andy Yates, Mr. Rose, I don't know if he's still in the room, I think he actually was checking, we have about 40 spaces. So we have a lot of parking around the facility. And this area here, I'm going to talk to you more about, this is really intended to be the K-5 play area. So that's kind of the general layout. But let me go through some more important slides for you to sort of get you going here. Actually, let me back up one more time. This K-5 play area, if you look at just this space, just that space, that is currently what we have at Andy Yates. This is an overlay. If you take, the architects took the turf field at Andy Yates, the play area, the K1 play area, and they superimposed that on just that K5 area. So at Andy Yates, all the play area, technically, is just that area on this new facility. This new facility, in terms of play space, is about 4 times as large as what we have available right now for the kids. So I just want to point that out to you. So again, I'm referring to this K5 play area adds up to about the square footage of open play spaces Andy Yates. Now, let me show you this slide here. The green arrows are very important. This shows when the gates are locked, which way they push. In an event of a fire alarm, fire drill, if we have adults and K5 kids playing here, there's a fire drill. They can push out, line up. They can push out here, they can push out here. However, nobody can enter this area. These gates are locked. They only push with the panic bars one way. When the K5 students are in here playing, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever recess it is their area. So I want to make sure that point is very clear to you. There were, I think, a lot of meetings like this over the years with teachers and parents, and they talked a lot about, well, what about safety? What about security? And I think a lot of that went into the design. And Mark, that's probably true. You should probably come closer so I can hear you if I need you. But a lot of that went into the design of the facility. So again, these arrows denote which ways the gates push open, so that once they're locked. So the little yellow circles are all the cameras around the campus in terms of campus security. Now we have cameras right now, for example, at Andy Yates. Some of them work, some of them don't, and we have a number of blind spots actually. But we have full coverage of the facility and the site in terms of safety and security. Of course, this is the pool. This pool here was designed primarily with children and seniors in mind. It was shallowed out. It will look like an infinity pool, so there's less water resistance for the seniors and the children. But I wanted to really make sure you have a good look at this slide. We'll talk about that again on the tour in a few minutes. Now here's kind of some ideas I've been presenting and playing with the school board over the last few months. These are possible areas that we have planned for the kids possible to be in. It might be that in the morning we let fifth graders go both areas. The teachers told me, look, we have all this space. Why don't we let some kids go both places? We don't have to just stay here. So this just denotes that maybe we'd have 5, 6, 7 here in the morning. There's a TK playground up there, K5 again there. These areas are separated. Mark, I believe they're separated. Mark is our architect. They're separated by some boundaries and shrubs or different things, or landscaping, I guess, landscaping. So the high school kids have some chairs here, some seating here. They have some seating here. Other than that, they're there and they go in, unless they go into that multi-purpose room to get something to eat. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is kind of a potential layout. Let me show you some other potential layouts and ideas. Now, here's one benefit of us having the district offices or administration, myself and my staff over here. Suddenly, and you can't make out the colors, I'm sorry. Suddenly, we have a lot more people who can be outside in the morning. This has kind of hit me about a month ago. And I've told some of my staff that. It's maybe a surprise for some of them here. But we have the ability to have, I can say to some of my staff members, look, start your first 30 minutes of your day outside with the children, right? And so we have more adults now who can actually help with supervision than we currently have at either of our sites. So this actually represents, these asterisks represent current staff members. So it's not me exaggerating. These are 3 of our district staff and our current 2 administration, one security guard, and our teachers and administrators who are usually out for the morning time. Now here's something else to show you. So what does it look like from 8 to 8:30? Well, it might look like this. It might look like 5th, 6th, 7th, or the K-8 kids come in, typically in this area at the top. If I'm a 6th grader or 7th grader with a younger brother or sister, I'm going to drop my sibling off there and let them come in. The gates will be unlocked for the first 30 minutes so the arrows don't impinge, stop us from coming that way at that time. I'm a middle schooler, I'm going to come here, I'm going to get a snack, I'm going to go out, I'm going to shoot some basketball, or I'm going to hang out on the field until school starts. If I'm a high school student, I'm coming here, I'm hanging out, I'm sitting down. I might similarly come in here. This wall is up all the way. If I'm a K-5 student and I come in here, I'm not going to see any other students. I'm not going to see middle school students or high school students because of that wall. So I might come in and get some breakfast, I might go back out here and play. So that's what it might look like in terms of the flow in the morning. Now, one thing I mentioned to the school board is that it might not look like this. We might want to start high school 30 minutes later. That might be a solution. And if that's the case, then it looks like this. Everything's the same except we don't have any high school students coming in at the same time. That is something for you to consider for your conversations this morning. Now, so assuming the first scenario, high school comes at the same time, what does it look like from 8:30 to 9:30? Well, what it looks like potentially is that again, high school might have this half, middle school might have this half, or the high school kids might be on this part of the gym, and the elementary kids could be out here, or the elementary kids could be over here. They can walk in this gym and still never see a high school student. Or the 2nd through 5th grade teachers, who some of them do PE during this time, could be over here. And the K1, actually, TK1 have recess within this, it's not for an hour, it's within this time block. So it could look like that. If the high school kids don't start at the same time, it looks like this, 8:30, 9:30. The high school kids would eventually come to school, so it looks like this. Now let me take you through a few hours. 9:30 to 10:30. Our K1, 4, 5 teachers typically do some PE there. Our 2, 3 recess is happening there. Middle school, high school PE. Again, depending on the 2 PE coaches, they have to figure out who wants to be where. 9:30 to 10:30. 9:30 to 10:45. 11 to 11:20. And this is based on current scheduling from Annie Yates primarily, roughly. I'm off by a few minutes here and there. Now the K1 come into lunch. The 2, 3s at recess. Oh, you can't see that, I'm sorry. This is the K1, I'm sorry. My colors and projector aren't working very well. The 2, 3 is now having lunch right here inside. The 4, 5 are at recess. 12:10 to 12:30. Nobody is now in this area, and the 4, 5 are having their lunch. Sorry, these colors aren't showing. 6, 7, 8 is now outside. And now, the high school kids are having their lunch, still on their half of the room. At this time, nobody's even here. Now again, this does assume the high school lunch is a little later, so maybe we want to again consider starting them later. At some point, the high school kids will have to come have their lunch, but we still, no matter what time of day that is, that wall is still up. And then you can see K3 PE has the entire field available to them if they like, or the gym. 12:45 to 1:05, the middle schoolers now come in for lunch. The high school kids are back in the building. And here's the other thing to remind everybody. The high school kids don't go have recess. They don't come out of the building. They go in, they go from class to class, they're in their building, they come out for lunch, and they're back in. So they're not out of the building very often. So that's something important I think I just want to remind everybody of. Dismissal time. Dismissal time, if the high school kids are on a different schedule, it would look like this possibly. The 6, 7, 8 would come out the bottom, the 4, 5 would go, and the 1, 3 would go at the top. When I skipped the kindergarten dismissal, no offense to you, Ms. Miles. 3:45, if the high school schedule's later, the high school kids will come out later by themselves. So this is something for you to, again, to consider in your conversations as some potential ways we can program this. This can be programmed how we think works best for the students and all of us. And that's it. So I'll take questions as we walk around, but right now, to keep us on schedule, Ramon, when I say the word ECCL, I'm going to have everyone stand up and walk their way to you to grab a helmet. We're going to walk outside, we're going to walk out the street and start our tour. And then we're going to come back here. Okay? ECCL, please. I'll answer your questions as we walk if you don't mind. ECCL. Let's go ahead and we need a construction helmet. Let's get a hat. And actually staff.
Come to these meetings.
I like to stagger the start time. There's some classroom sharing that the teachers do not cycle. And the kids, they're all their personal